Hey guys, welcome back to another video here. I'm going to show you how to use a pressure cooker. I'm also going to show you what a pressure cooker is and how it works. Now there's going to be a lot of information in this video. I'm going to give you the most important tips, so make sure that you watch the whole video so that you don't miss out on any of this important information. All right, here we go. All right, so what is a pressure cooker? Well, a pressure cooker is a pot that holds liquid that can be superheated. All right, so basically when you take a regular pot and you fill it with water, water only gets to about 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how hot water boils. But when you put water in a pressure cooker and you seal it, see here's the lid, and it has this silicone gasket, so it literally seals the pressure inside of the pressure cooker. And because it's sealed and only a little tiny bit of steam will escape the valves, the water inside, or the liquid inside the pressure cooker, is at such high pressure that it actually increases the temperature at which the liquid boils. Okay, so now it's no longer boiling at 100 degrees or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, but goes all the way up to 121 degrees or 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And that temperature difference actually speeds up the cooking process by about 60 to 75%. So that is a huge advantage. If you're braising something, if you're boiling something, you can cook it in, basically half the time or less than half the time. Okay, so that's how a pressure cooker works. All right, now there's two kinds of pressure cookers. There's a stovetop pressure cooker like this one that I call a passive pressure cooker because it doesn't generate its own heat. It uses the heat from your stove. And there are electric pressure cookers that you just plug in. They generate their own heat. As you can see, they have all sorts of different functions, and we won't get into that on this video. I just want to let you know that there's basically two kinds, electric and stovetop. Today we're going to use the stovetop cooker, but they essentially work the same way. Once pressure inside is created, all the liquid in the pressure cooker rises up in heat to about 250 degrees Fahrenheit and cooks your food really quickly. Now, some of you may wonder, is there a difference between the electric and the stovetop pressure cookers in terms of safety? I think that a lot of people are afraid to use pressure cookers because they're, maybe they've heard somebody say, oh, they're going to explode, or if it builds up pressure, there's, something horrible is going to happen. Well, yes and no. I mean, I've been using pressure cookers professionally for the last 20 years, and I've never once had an issue happen with them. But theoretically, if you get them too hot and it creates too much pressure, then what would happen is they usually have a valve. See, this valve has a weight on it, and if too much steam needed to escape, it would escape through this valve. And usually they have two safety mechanisms, so it would probably escape out of that valve as well. And over here, this is the pressure valve. If it reached too much pressure, all the steam would start escaping out of there. And yes, it might make a bit of a mess in your kitchen by spraying, liquid, but it would not explode. Okay, so that's just not a realistic fear that you should have. And because this one regulates its own heat, the stars and planets and solar systems would have to align for everything in this, for all the safety mechanisms in this thing to fail. So for all intents and purposes, you can just consider that this just will not fail. You will not get this thing to malfunction and explode. So I would say this is 99.9% safe. And this one is, I would say 80% safe, because you do have to regulate the heat on the stove like I'm going to show you. But absolute worst case scenario, what would happen is just like hot liquid would kind of shoot out of that hole here and maybe just make a mess on your stove. But it's not like you're, anyways, that's essentially the worst case scenario, which if you know how to use a pressure cooker, it just would never happen. Now, I really like to use Fissler pressure cookers. Fissler did not pay me for this, so I'm just letting you know my personal opinion about which pressure cookers are the best. And to me, Fissler is the best. I mean, they're made of stainless steel. They're beautiful. All the components are really, really high quality. They're made in Germany. And this is one thing that Fissler has that other pressure cookers don't, is a lot of pressure cookers you have to kind of guess at what like what the optimal pressure is, but these actually have this little, like this is the pressure valve here, and look, I'm going to lift it up from the bottom. Sorry, I had to do that with 2 hands. So you'll see there's this valve here. Okay, I'm going to just push it with my finger, and you'll see that when it reaches the right temperature, this thing goes up like this. So yellow is like it's not hot enough yet. Green means it's just right. And then red means you better turn that heat down because it's getting a little too hot. Okay, and these are the only pressure cookers that I know of that have that 3-color indicator. Some of them actually have like a gauge on them to show you the actual pressure. See, like this is one of my pressure cookers that I use. This is like a ginormous one that you can literally fit like a turkey into, but it'll have a gauge that'll tell you how many pounds per square inch or how much PSI is inside the pressure cooker. So you can see with the gauge, you know, exactly what your PSI is, which I really like, by the way, because to get a really good pressure, I like to get it in between 10 and 15 PSI. You know, 15 PSI is my ideal for cooking meats and things like that. When you buy a pressure cooker, it's good to look at the manual and see how high the PSI goes, how high the pressure goes, because a lot of electric cookers, I've noticed, will only get to like 8 PSI, okay? They won't get to a good proper 15 PSI, like something like this. So the higher the pressure, the faster your food is gonna cook. So it's good to invest in a pressure cooker that will get to between 10 and 15 PSI. I wouldn't waste my money on a pressure cooker that gets less than 10 PSI. Now, for the Fitzler, for example, it has like different settings. So over here, if you can see that number 1, this is probably like, and I'm guessing here, it's probably like 10 PSI. And then we got number 2, which is probably like 12 PSI. And then we got number 3, which is a high PSI. And this is what I would use to like cook meats and stuff like that. Now I do have to look at the manual. So at this time, I don't know exactly how high this PSI is, but I'm hoping that it's around 15. But usually that information is available in the manual. 99% of the time that I'm using a pressure cooker, I always want to use the high setting. I can't even think of anything that I would want to use a lower pressure setting for that I use a pressure cooker for. So it's important to know what PSI your high setting is on your pressure cooker, because that is the setting that you're going to be using 99% of the time. Okay, so for today's example, I'm going to be using some beautiful beef chuck ribs. Okay, these are one of the best things that can come out of a cow. I'm not going to talk too much about these ribs because I'm just using these for a demo. But basically, if you want to cook these in the oven or in the stovetop, normally you would braise them, which means that you cook them slowly in a liquid. These would take probably 2 to 3 hours, something like that. But in our pressure cooker, we're only going to put them in there for an hour. If I was in a rush, I could get soft short ribs in about 45 minutes, but I like them really soft, so I'm going to put them in the pressure cooker for just 1 hour. So that's going to save us, you know, more than half the time that we would normally cook these on the stovetop. Okay, so very simply here I'm going to add the short ribs to the bottom of the pot. And then I'm just going to add some things to flavor this. So I'll put like half a peeled onion in there, or actually the whole peeled onion, some bay leaves, 4 garlic cloves. And here's probably the only important thing that you need to learn about how to pressure cook. We're not necessarily going to cook the meat with pressure. We're going to cook the meat with superheated liquid. Okay, the pressure in the cooker is actually going to superheat the water to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we need to do is anything that you want to cook inside of a pressure cooker has to be fully submerged in liquid. It can't be like half submerged in liquid. Okay, so whenever you're putting liquid in here, for example, we're going to be using beef stock. You want to put enough so that it covers the short ribs. Okay, that way all that liquid is going to go up to 120 degrees Celsius or 250 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is what's going to cook this in about half the time that normally we would cook it. You got to make sure that you have your seal on your lid. Okay, we're gonna snap that in there. In a Fissler pressure cooker, you get all sorts of these little bells and whistles. So for example, the little green indicator letting you know that it's snapped and it fits together and everything's going well. So that's what, again, I can't say enough good things about Fissler pressure cookers. They really just figured out everything somebody would need in a pressure cooker. All right, so now we're gonna put this on the stove. Okay, so like I said, I have this, this could go up to high, but I'm gonna turn it down just one to 9.5. Okay, and then I'm gonna wait for the pressure cooker to come up to pressure, and this little indicator will tell me when the pressure has been reached. I have it set to number 3, which is high pressure, which is about 15 psi, because that's gonna cook that meat really, really quickly. Okay, so this happens on most pressure cookers. The first thing that'll happen is when the water inside the pressure cooker gets hot enough, this little valve inside here will seal. So you might see a little bit of steam coming out of there, and then all of a sudden it'll go, psst, no more steam. Okay, that's step 1. So that tells you that there's enough steam created inside the pressure cooker to seal the valve. Okay, so now you can see we're coming up to pressure there. Now we're at low pressure. And as soon as that thing reaches green, I'm going to turn that heat down to like 4. Okay, so now we see that we're coming up to heat here, and we can hear it hissing. We see that it's green, so now I'm going to turn this down to 4. On my stove, it's 4. Okay, 3.5, 4. 3.5 is also okay. Okay, and you can see that it's a nice hiss. Now this is normal for steam to be coming out of there. Okay, if you don't have one of these pressure gauges on your stovetop pressure cooker, another way that you'll know that you've reached pressure is when you have a nice little hiss like that, and then you just put your stove down to like low. Okay, and you just let it cook. Yeah, and I do see a little bit of red there, just a little tiny bit. But it's okay. I mean, I've been using these Fissler cookers for years. I like a good, strong 15 psi. And now I'm going to set my timer. So here we go. Timer, 1 hour. Start. Okay? And it's just going to go like this. Now, here's another tip, because I know a lot of you have pressure cookers that don't have a pressure gauge, whether it's a color gauge or a number gauge, and you just have to go by just seeing the little bit of steam coming out of it. Now, I do know that it is scary. Okay, I totally know that if you're not used to using a pressure cooker and you see steam come out of here, it can be really scary and you think something's going wrong. Well, it's just kind of like learning how to ride a bike. You just got to do it once or twice until you get confident enough to know what is normal steam and what is like, oh my God, like call the fire department kind of steam. So right now, if this pressure cooker, if this steam was like crazy and just like, obviously I'm not gonna make an example, but if you had like a crazy amount of steam and it was like totally scary, and especially if you can see liquid start to shoot out of there, yeah, then you know something's wrong. And that's when you either turn the heat way down or you just turn it off and step away from it. Also, another thing that would happen, is if somehow this thing failed, I believe there's always a secondary valve that would pop. So this valve would actually, liquid would just start squirting out of here and squirting out of there. That would be in like a total emergency situation. That's if you like left it on high and just like forgot about it on the stove and walked away from it. So that is, you're gonna have to, as long as you get to the point where there's just a little bit of steam coming out and you've turned it down to like 3.5 and you're just watching it and it's chilling out, you are totally good. See, right now this is just a nice, easy little hissing sound. And you can see a little bit of steam. That's all you're looking for. Once you do this a couple of times, I think you'll gain enough confidence where you can start using a pressure cooker on a regular basis. All right, so we are 10 minutes in, and as you can see, this thing got a little red. So no problem. I went ahead and turned the heat down over there to 2.2. So it's right at minimum heat. And that way we have a nice green indicator. And we can still just barely hear that little hiss. And we're doing really good here. All right. 48 minutes to go. And we are right on track. All right, guys, so the time has elapsed. It's been an hour. I've turned off the stove. Now what I'm going to do is move it onto the part of the stove that is cool, because this is what's happening right now. There's still a lot of pressure inside this thing, and the mechanism that locks it will not let me open this. So what I have to do is wait for all the pressure to come out. And now I have three options. I can do something called natural pressure release, which means that right now you can hear there's a little bit of pressure still coming out from that release valve. And if you wait, you know, it could be between 15 to 30 minutes, that pressure will naturally just come out, and that's called natural pressure release. So you just wait 15 to 30 minutes, and then we'll be able to press this button here and open up the pressure cooker. Okay, that's option number one. Option number two is quick pressure release. And you will see these things when you look at a pressure cooking recipe. It'll normally tell you what to do at the end, whether it's natural pressure release or quick pressure release. So quick pressure release is we are going to use whatever mechanism that your pressure cooker has available to let the steam out quicker. That way the pressure drops and we can open it up. So in this case, I can press this button, and it's a little scary if you've never done it. Okay, so we're going to press this button here, and you'll see a whole bunch of steam starts to come out. See, not the best idea, because then you get all this juice all over it. All right, so that would be quick pressure release, and it's a little finicky, and you just go little by little, and you can do this. Or I have what I like to call really quick pressure release, which let me show you what that is. Okay, with really quick pressure release, I put this in the sink, and what I'm going to do is just run cold water on the lid and on the side of the pot, and that's going to bring the temperature way, way down really fast. So check it out. Okay, you'll see that valve dropping. There we go. See how fast that's going? And then we'll hear it. It'll go psst. Hear that? All right, that gurgling hiss, that tells us that the pressure dropped, and now we can easily open this up. Well, there we go. See? And if it wasn't for the steam, this would be a really good reveal. And there are our beautiful short ribs. All right, so now we're back on the stove, and we did the super quick pressure release. And look at these. So let's take this to the plate. All right, so I'm very carefully going to take these out of the pressure cooker. Oh, wow, look at this. Okay, put this right over here. And look at this, so soft that the bone just slips right off of these. Okay, I have some of this beautiful tomato mushroom sauce that I made with some fresh Roma tomatoes that I had. Now, normally you can put these on like mashed potatoes, but I'm trying to be healthy. So I have a nice bowl of spaghetti squash. Okay, oh, look at that. Check that out. Okay, and here's the money shot. How soft is this? I'm sure you're all dying to see. So look at that. It just breaks apart, just like that. Look at that. You don't even need a knife. Okay, and that is what you want when you braise meat. It just sort of falls apart like this. Okay, and instead of waiting 2 or 3 hours, we can do this very easily in a pressure cooker in an hour, and depending what you're cooking, sometimes under an hour. Okay, so you can save 60 or 70% of the cooking time by using a pressure cooker. If you'll notice on the bottom of the screen, there's a little button called Super Thanks, and I really, really appreciate when you guys use the Super Thanks to contribute to my channel and to help support me. I totally appreciate you guys. So please use that super thanks. Also, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe for more of our videos. And because this channel is for you, please let me know in the comment section what videos you would like to see next. All right, guys, until next time, this is Christian saying I'm going to go eat some short ribs. I'll see you guys on the next video.